All right, we are live. Well, welcome to Woodward Wings. I am Justice Satawa. I am joined by the Hockeytown Rundown guys, and Carlo, and we have Flannel Sam as here as usual. A little bit of a different episode here today because we were dealing with some technical issues. Our file got corrupted, so we are hitting you with a little bit of a different look this week. We're excited to be here, excited to have the Hockeytown Rundown guys because they have been very active with me the last couple of weeks dealing with this Jason Robertson trade. So I also want to get their opinion on that, but we're just going to dive right on into it. We have the first bit of promising Red Wings rumor news that has come out in this offseason period, and that is from David Pagoda, and he says that Edmonton, Toronto, and Detroit are among the teams that will look at signing Aaron Ekblad if he hits free agency. For me, our video got corrupted 2 weeks ago, and I actually had a friend in Ontario who is from the city where Aaron Ekblad is from, and he had told me that it is the worst kept rumor in their city that Ekblad was going to go to Toronto or go to Detroit. So this just confirms that. So, fellas, how are we feeling? Flannel, I'll kick it to you first. How are we feeling about the possibility that Aaron Ekblad has narrowed down to 3 teams and one of them being the Wings?
I love it. The reality is that the Red Wings, they need an upgrade, in the top 4 in terms of the D-core. Their penalty kill was absolutely atrocious last year. And you look at Aaron Ekblad, whether you want to pair him with potentially ASP or even Cider, it's just he's that veteran presence for the D-core that they desperately need. And I honestly believe if you just I'm not saying the Red Wings are going to do it. If they were to run it back completely and just drop Aaron Ekblad on that D-core, they're in the playoffs. They're not doing anything in the playoffs, but that just shows you how important somebody like him would be.
I completely agree. How are we feeling, Rundown?
I would agree with that. I think that would put them in the next step to garnering a playoff spot, right? Once they get in there, what are they going to do with it, right? If you were just only to carbon copy and insert an Aaron Ekblad in there, right? And I'm actually a firm believer that, and I said this on one of our episodes, Carlo will attest to this, that I do believe that if you did just take a carbon copy of this team, even if you didn't add an Aaron Ekblad, I do believe that this team could make a wild card spot. Now, what do they do with that? That's up to them to decide right from there. But that's my take on that. I think Aaron Ekblad would be a fantastic addition on the right side for this team. Big boy, too, 6'5", well over 200 pounds. And he's a 30-point guy, pretty much consistent, right? So, Carlo, your thoughts on Aaron Ekblad?
Yeah, I mean, it's silly to not want Aaron Ekblad. I think the term, I think that whole thing needs to be like perfect, just considering Stevie's past with some of these free agent deals. But I think a guy like Aaron Ekblad could, to Flannel Sam's point, it definitely could help us, get over that hump. I mean, he's playing top line with Florida right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. So if he slotted down into that second pairing on the wings, I think that's something like, I don't know if he's being over-indexed right now. Like, listen, as long as his ankles are okay after McDavid's running through him, I'm totally down to have him on our second pairing on the Detroit Red Wings. And you know what? Shout out to the hometown Windsor Lakeshore area. I mean, he's right across the border from Detroit. So I could definitely see why that would be, I guess a designation that he would like to be at. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I think it could add a lot of good depth to our D. And he, like Zach said, he brings that size, he brings that bite. And this is something that we really need to help really kind of create that identity. Because I think me and Zach are both aligned. We believe the identity piece is still being fostered. I think he comes in and he really adds to that piece that we desperately need. So I'm down for it. But I'll preface the term, the AAV, that needs to be top of mind for sure. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, like, if we're talking $7.5 million, which is what Florida wouldn't give him, I'm all good with that. I think $7.5 million is a great AAV for a guy like Aaron Ekblad, especially like you said, the culture is still being built, especially when McClellan took over. Like, you could tell the switch in the locker room, and now I want to see, Mo Sider become that Ekblad physical specimen that is just dominating physically. Same with Edvinson, and just have that bleed into the rest of this decor. So I agree with all of you. I think that we are all in line that this is a perfect fit. Where is the max AAV you would take Aaron Ekblad and term as well? Not to just throw you on the spot like this. I think that the max term I'm trying to look for, I think 4 or 5 years at $7.5 million. I think that's like my sweet spot right there.
What do you pay a guy that's been in the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row, right? That's a really tough question to answer, especially with the cap going up. But I'm right there with you on the term, on the length of the contract. 4 to 5 years is ideal for a 29-year-old because you look at someone like Ben Sherratt, right? People are very unhappy with the Ben Sherratt contract, so you don't want to extend these older players longer than you need to. But that's something that the Red Wings don't have on that back end, is someone who has a couple Stanley Cups and that playoff experience minus the Ben Sherratt, right? So if you're around there, the 7.5, I go up to 8 just because you have to pay, right? Based on what he has done and what he can provide in the future. That's where I'm at. What about you, Carlo?
I think if he's going to be somewhere in the sevens, whether it's even 7.5, 7.75, I think he's going to want the extra couple of years that I think we're all probably hesitant on giving him. Therefore, I think if you're going to go down that pathway of a 4 or 5 year deal, which I think makes the most sense, I think you might have to bump that term up a little bit to get him to do that.
I would, because of all of that, I would probably offer 5 years at 8 million AAV. I think Aaron Ekblad, and I'm not saying he's the end all be all. I know there's other defensive options out there, but if you can get somebody like that, I think he's that important that even if you have to overpay just a smidge to only give him a 5-year deal, I would 100% do that.
Yeah, I think overpaying a guy with a resume like that is a little bit more stomachable rather than overpaying guys that don't have anywhere near the resume that Ekblad has, right? So I'm with you.
And if you look at it from the perspective of Ben Sherratt as well, he only has 1 year left on his contract. So you're going to need someone to help out these younger players. Like Flannel mentioned, ASP, right? You're going to have someone on the back end to help out these young players grow and develop and learn how to play that playoff style of hockey, right? So,
yeah, I think that bringing in a guy like Ekblad, especially when he plays that right side that you just are so not deep in that right side room on the defensive side, I think that Ekblad is a slam dunk move. And I'm willing to go up to 8 million AAV. I'm not scared of giving a guy, like Carlos said, who has the tenure, has the experience, that overpay. So let's switch gears. So there was a big trade that happened in the NHL. I don't know if you want to call it big, but the Rangers got a bag of chips for Chris Kreider to go to the Ducks. How do you guys feel about that? And is this a move that you might have wanted to see the Red Wings just involved in, hearing a little rumored that they were involved, or are you out on Chris Kreider and you weren't even interested at all?
I'll let you start with this one, Carlo.
Personally, I like Kreider. If you're a fantasy hockey, fan, player, whatever, you probably all love Chris Kreider. But then you get into the real world, and you look at the makeup of the team and you kind of seek to understand where this team's at. Personally, I'm out on Kreider. His age, I don't know. He comes in and he's just plugging holes and he's plugging players from coming up. I think Chris Kreider could get in the way of MBN. I think he can get in the way of Buchelnikov whenever he comes through. So for me, I'm out on Kreider. I'm fine with Detroit kind of passing on that if they were ever even involved in it, and we move on to the next thing that really kind of checks the box that we need to check.
Yeah, for me, it came down to, Chris Kreider's cap hit, and that's something that the Anaheim Ducks could take on. Now, looking at it from a Red Wings perspective, you do have just over $21 million, but if Steve wanted to do it, he would have done it. It took mainly next to nothing. A couple of picks were swapped, and then the New York Rangers, they got a center prospect who's a little bit on the smaller side. He was a 2023 pick. So that was something that we could have done, but based on that AAV, it seems like Steve Yzerman was a little hesitant to take on something like that, and probably more than likely wants to work on the back end more so than the forward group, right? So to me, I'm really not upset. And to back up Carlos' point, yeah, he is a fantasy god, right? He puts up those 40 goals a season, so he definitely helps out your fantasy team. But from a real world perspective, he brings grit, he brings, experience. He's a veteran in the NHL, right? But it comes down to his age and his cap hit that would affect this team.
And that's where I'm pretty much in a line with both of you guys. Chris Kreider has obviously been an excellent player in the NHL for a long time, has helped the Rangers have some really good and dominant regular seasons. But for me, when you factor in the cap hit, when you factor in the fact that he's 34 years old right now, I don't think it moves the needle enough. Would it help the Red Wings next year? I think yes, but there's better options. I don't think I would say overpay and trade for a Chris Kreider at this point. When you factor in his cap hit, I think it would be an overpay.
And you also got to look at if you were to bring him on and you were to pay him and you have that AAV, on the books, what is that jamming up now that we can't spend money on? You know what I mean? Like who are we not in on because of that? So I'm kind of glad we moved on from that one. Now we still have that 21 million to go and address the holes we need to address. I think he just gets in the way of not only the players I mentioned, but he gets in the way of the actual plan of who we need to go and sign once again to check those boxes. So that's where I'm at with it, boys.
Yeah, I think that I'm with you guys. I think that if you could have convinced the Rangers to retain some of his salary, I would have been all for it. But the Anaheim Ducks weren't able to get that, so why would you be able to get that? So I'm out on the move as well. I do think he would have added a little bit of clutch playoff performance like he usually has. So if we did get theirs, but at the end of the day, I think that there are more sustainable moves on the table versus going to trade for a 35-year-old who's 2 years left on his deal and probably 2 years left in his career. So.
Yeah.
Let's flip to someone who I really love, and this is someone who came out in the rumors early on at the combine and has continued through in the last couple of weeks, and that's K'Andre Miller, and K'Andre Miller being available for the New York Rangers. And this is a guy who I think the fit is so perfect next to Mo Seider. You're adding a free-flowing offensive defenseman to a lockdown, big physical defenseman. You really let K'Andre Miller play his style of hockey. You let him be an offensive beast. You let him free flow. You let him he's really good at that transitional defense. If Mo's back, it's 2-on-1 and he's back checking. That's a skill that he is elite at. He's very good at getting the pucks out. So I really love K'Andre Miller, and I'm willing, and the rumor is a second and a third round pick for him, which I would be jumping at if that is truly the rumor, because we're talking about a guy who had his best season next to Jacob Trouba, and Mo Seider is a lot better than Jacob Trouba.
Yep. Facts.
Would agree with that. Yeah.
No, and yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, with K'Andre Miller, and we've talked about this before. I think, obviously, like I said, there are a plethora of options out there, but what intrigues me about a K'Andre Miller is the potential cost, which I think he would be more of that Moneyball type of trade. Which I'm a kind of, if you guys probably aren't familiar, but I'm definitely more in a line with that. I think those are intriguing options at times. It's not the end all be all, but I certainly don't mind moneyballing it a little bit. But with K'Andre Miller, I think he could potentially kill a couple of two birds with one stone. I think he would help the PK because I'm going to harp. You're going to continue to hear me harp on this all until next season. Until you see that it's improved, because the PK was so morbid that that's always what I'm going to look at. I think K'Andre Miller would help the PK. You could play him next to Seider. And also, I think that he would also be a very, very intriguing option in a way that maybe other defensemen aren't in the 5-on-5 scoring. He's got an offensive element to his game. And when you look at his numbers throughout his career, just his point numbers, he does not do hardly any of his work on the power play. And I'm not saying the power play is a bad thing or anything like that, but you need 5-on-5 scoring from the blue line, and K'Andre Miller would bring that for the Detroit Red Wings. I think if the Red Wings were to get this done, it would be the potential to be one of the more under the radar great acquisitions in the entire offseason in the NHL.
I would kind of agree with you. You kind of took the words out of my mouth, honestly, with the PK side of things, the 5-on-5, right? And that's kind of what we're looking for, because the PK, it was bottom 5 in the league, right? All year, and it has been for quite some time. I really do believe that if you upgraded our defense, then the 5-on-5 is going to transition that much better, right? You're going to be able to get out of your zone. You're going to have less pucks going against the net on your goalie, right? And I know a lot of people get flack to the goalies, but you look at this defense and the PK, and it's not always on the goalie, right? And so you got to help out your goalie by inserting a good defense, right? And that's no pushback to Simon Edvinsson or Albert Johansson, but adding someone like a K'Andre Miller into there, right, would definitely help out this team. And that doesn't over-index players, as Carlo always famously says, right? Then Ben Sherratt, we don't have to have him on the top pairing. We don't have to have him on the second pairing. Hopefully we could put him on the third pairing, and then Albert Johansson, you could slot over to that third pair right-handed spot, right? Yeah, Justin, please. I'm doing the exact same thing as you are every single night. That's what helps me go to sleep at night, right? So I would be very interested in getting a K'Andre Miller, and if that cost is what it is a second and a third, Steve, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
What are the Rangers looking for? Also, what is K'Andre Miller looking for in his next contract? What would you offer to someone at the age of 25 who is 6'5", over 200 pounds?
Well, his projection that I've seen is 5 years around 6.4 million. The cap is around 7. And if we're talking about the guy who is, 25, who's put up prime seasons as a defenseman offensively, I think that is not a risky contract at all, especially when you see the fit next to Seider and you can know that, okay, we can let him do his thing. We don't have to change him into something he's not, which is the thing that Red Wings do all the time. We now are just going to take him at his skill set, at his value, and we are going to put him with someone he can strive with. And then that's why I have no problem paying him that AAV, especially because it's not signing someone to like a $9 million AAV, and then we're starting to get into the range where if you sign a couple more of those players, you're hindering on Edmondson and Casper's extensions that are going to come up in the next 2 years.
My only other, or I guess I should say it like this, my only thing that I want to go against, so I guess my rebuttal to getting in K'Andre Miller, right, is that at this point, Red Wings fans don't want Justin Hall. Right? We no longer have Jeff Petrie on the books. We really don't have too many right-handed shooting defensemen on this roster if we did add a K'Andre Miller. Moritz Seider would be your only one. So are we comfortable with having 5 left-handed defensemen on this team moving forward next season? I've asked that a couple of times. So are you guys comfortable with adding something like that?
I'm personally comfortable because in my playing career, I talk to all my defensemen and a lot of them prefer to play their offhand. A lot of them don't feel like a difference when they move to their offhand. So it's all about comfortability. And I think that there are a lot of very good defensemen on this roster that will be able to make that transition over to the right side if they have to. But I would prefer to bring in a right defenseman, and that's why I do think if you do bring in K'Andre Miller, he won't be the only piece that you bring in, because I really think the priority on this offseason is bringing in a right defenseman to have a shored up top 4.
Ooh, Justin, are you talking about K'Andre Miller and somebody else? Oh boy, that gets me excited, and I understand that it would be putting a lot of money into the defense, but at this point, I mean, the reality is the Red Wings, they had a regression last year. It was a very disappointing season. So a lot of things are on the table. They're going to have to be more aggressive. And it also speaks to Zach's point that K'Andre Miller, obviously he's somebody that I would like, but if Steve Yzerman puts more of a premium on getting a right-handed guy and he doesn't want to do 2, which please do 2, but just to my point, there's other options out there. K'Andre Miller is just one of many. He's just one that I would particularly like a lot.
He's a box checker. He's a box checker. Like he comes with that bite. He comes with that size, and he's going to help, once again, catapult that identity piece that we desperately need. But the one thing I find interesting with Miller is, you talk about putting him next to Mo, which I fully agree with, at least for the first season, maybe even his second season, hypothetically, if he does come to Detroit. But then ASP comes into the picture. Is he the guy that's on the left of ASP when he's in the lineup? Or is ASP on the third line? If to Flannel Sam's point, the Stevie Yzerman goes and hypothetically gets Miller and then goes and gets that second right-handed piece, does ASP become our third pair guy? And now we're talking about a whole world of depth. Either way, I think it's a great problem to have, if you even want to call it a problem. I don't even know if that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a luxury. Yep. And I really do like the outlook of this decor. If you're talking about adding 2 veteran defensemen and then you bring in ASP and you replace all the, let's call them waste, that our decor currently has.
Priority waste.
Yes, exactly. Well, someone who is not priority waste, but their franchise is a few people on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I'm going to shoot you all with a blindsided trade that I have thought about a lot since that it's come out, that the Penguins are the only true sellers out of the teams in the bottom of the NHL. So what I'm doing, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know how much you guys think of me and my opinion of Sebastian Cossa, but I personally think that Sebastian Cossa is not ready. He won't be ready next year. I don't even know if he'll be ready the year after that. This is 4 years where the lateral quickness has not necessarily improved. So I am bridging a goalie to Augustine. I am out on Cossa semi. semi-out on Costa because I'd rather bring in a known to be able to catapult this team into the playoffs. So bringing in my known, Tristan Jarry and Raquel for Danielson, a first and a second. What do you guys think?
Off the cuff, real quick. I mean, Tristan Jarry. Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the name Tristan Jarry, this is a guy who has been with the Pittsburgh Penguins for quite some time. He had a really good season in 2019-2020, had a 2.43 save percent or goals against average, a 9.21 save percentage. And from there, it kind of went down, kind of bounced back in 21-22. But the last couple years playing with the Pittsburgh Penguins, can you really say that it's all his fault based on his save percentage? Because the team hasn't made the playoffs in the last 2 seasons, right? Even with the likes of Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Carlson, Letang, those types of players, right? So I don't hate it. And then you mentioned Rickard Rakell too. I mean, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is he from Michigan? Or am I thinking of someone else?
He's from Sweden. Rust is from Michigan, and that would be the other one.
Okay.
It would either be Raquel or Rust. I haven't really decided which one. I like Raquel a little better personally because I think he brings a little bit more of a better fit on our top 6, but I would also be down for Brian Rust. He's from Pontiac, Michigan.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I got those two mixed up. I mean, yeah. I mean, Rickard Rakell, he just put up 70 points this season, right? 35 goals, 35 assists. The only down, or I guess big question that I have, how consistent could he be for us, right? Because you look at his stats, I mean, kind of bounces around, right? He hasn't exactly had the healthiest of seasons as of late, right? I mean, he did play 81 games this season, previous season, 70, the one before that, 82. Then it went to 19, 51, 52, 65, 69. So that kind of scares me a little bit. And also both of their cap hits kind of scare me a little bit too. So I don't know. It's really tight right there. So to me personally, I would say no, but I don't hate it. I just think Steve Yzerman would say no to something like that if I were Steve Yzerman. What about you, Carlo?
Man, I mean, the return, like what Detroit would be giving up to get those two guys is, because you said it was Danielson, a first and a second.
Yep.
That's not bad. You're getting a top 6 player. You're getting a goaltender that's played well when he's got something to play for in front of him. I like Tristan Jarry. Again, back to that whole fantasy hockey conversation. I mean, he's a stud. He faces a lot of rubber, and he usually saves a lot of rubber too as a result. I know his stuff's kind of gone down, but to Zach's point, he plays behind a pretty weak D. I would probably consider that one. I don't know if I want to say like 100% pull the trigger, but I'm a fan of it, and I definitely like the idea of Rickard Rakell over Brian Rust.
This is tough because there's many layers to this. The compensation, Danielson a first and a second. I don't have a problem giving up something like that in a trade. Rickard Rakell, I think he would upgrade the offense tremendously. Tristan Jarry, and I understand that he's had some excellent seasons with Pittsburgh. His best one, as you said, Zach, being in 2019-2020, and he's had some other good ones. But I'm not 100% convinced that Tristan Jarry behind this defense, this Red Wings defense, which we assume will be upgraded to some extent in the offseason, will even be that much of an upgrade over currently what Cam Talbot or Peter Mrazek are. That in terms of trading for him, I like the Rakell. I like that. The compensation I'm cool with. Danielson is far from untouchable at this point. But the Tristan Jarry element of it, that's the one that would make me ultimately say no. When you consider the plethora of options there are out there in the offseason to augment this team.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I think that I would personally do this trade because for me, I don't see the fit for Danielson anywhere on this lineup. Like, he is going to come up and he is going to struggle to find a role. He's not going to be playing with players that bring him up in a way that matches his skill set. So I think that he is the most expendable prospect in the Red Wings organization. And due to that fact, I think that if you can go get a premium goalie with 3 years left on his deal, which is a pretty cheap contract for a goalie of his caliber for the next 3 years. And if you want to not take Raquel, fine. You're worried about that contract? Fine. The fact that if you go after Tristan Jarry, it seems like such a slam dunk move because he is a guy who's been a playoff performer, above 9-point save percentage. Like Carlos said, the Penguins defense has been atrocious the last couple of years. I truly think even with how bad this decor is, if you were to make Tristan Jarry and a D in here, I think that the decor is good enough for you to compete to win a playoff series and not just make the playoffs.
Yeah, you know what? That's interesting because if you do upgrade the D, you know, Jarry has shown that if he's playing in front of a solid D core, he can put up some good numbers. The only thing I think about here is with an upgraded D, and let's call it Tristan Jarry in goal, how many goals are we not giving up as a result of that? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. How many goals is Stevie adding by messing with that top six, middle six, whatever? But I'm more important about how many goals is Steve Yzerman, I guess, in a way, eliminating that we're giving up. And you have to look at upgrading that D, which we talked about, and then we look at a goaltender who can hang. I'll be straight. Like I feel like he's better than Peter Mrazek, but I feel like Peter Mrazek before he went down was showing some pretty good things. And I'm very curious to see him play a full season. I'm definitely curious to see him play a full season with a new goaltending coach whenever they decide to announce that or whoever it may be. Cam Talbot's the one I think that's going to be obviously on the out because of his age and he's going to get aged out. Mind you, he's a hell of an athlete. I got to just say that. Like for him to be able to do what he's doing at the age he's at, he is a hell of an athlete. But that time's going to come where he's probably going to get aged out. And then to your point, it's like, okay, we got Kosa. Is he ready? No, I don't know. Maybe not. And I like the idea of Jarry. It's a quick thinking move that actually could make some sense, but we got to upgrade the D. That's got to be priority one to make that.
Yeah, we got to upgrade the D. And you're funny you say that. This is a pro Peter Mrazek show here. We all think that Peter Mrazek is the best goalie on the team.
Yeah.
And me personally, I love that trade. I thought that trade, everyone shits on that trade way too often.
Mm-hmm.
I actually hate it because we literally gave up nothing for a starting goalie. We gave up nothing. And like you want to bag on Riley Smith's performance? Cool. He's so irrelevant in that trade. He was literally just to make sure we had someone who could go on the ice and play the minutes. It was not there was, and then you bring in Peter Mrazek, who was cheaper than Alex Lyon, and he's better than Alex Lyon as well. You're talking to the Peter Mrazek fan club right here. I mean, I love Mrazek, and I'm down to go into the season with Mrazek if the decor is better. But if the decor is not better, it's not going to look good. It's just like I like your point. It's about how many goals can you eliminate, and Steve Yzerman's got to be thinking in that regard. How many goals can I eliminate? And I think the way to do that is improving Seider's partner, improving Edmondson's partner, moving Sherrod to the third line, and then bringing in a goalie. I think that puts you in a position where you're looking at a playoff series next year, and you're like, oh, man, maybe we can make some noise. Like, because if we got in the playoffs this year, like, let's all be honest, we would have got slapped by the Capitals.
Yeah.
Like, it was not going to look good.
No. And I do want to kind of take a step back and touch on the goalies too. Goalies are so weird, right? And to be honest, for me, in my personal opinion, I think there are only 3 top goalies in the NHL right now. And from there, it's a huge drop off, right? So there's no such thing as like a superstar goalie anymore. And there's really only 3 of them. That's Vasilevsky, that would be Ilya Sorokin for me, and then that would be Igor Shesterkin, right? And so where is Jarry fit? Right. And so I would say
top 3. Yeah. That's an interesting top. We got to come back to that.
Yeah. We're not going to name the MVP of the league.
Say Zach.
Where's Connor?
I'm pushing him out because I don't want him to stay in Winnipeg anymore. I want him
to
come back.
Psychology
come back. And now, granted, looking at the way that he played in the playoffs, it is what it is. Now he's got to figure out how to play in the playoffs, right? And so looking at those other 3 goalies, I think that they do a much better job. And maybe it's a Russian thing. I don't know.
Russian goalies are no joke, dude. Like, you're not wrong there.
No, you're absolutely not. Well, there is one thing that we got to touch on, last thing, and it's the Robo trade. So I made that trade that you guys talked about, and you guys seem pretty interested in, but you guys made a counter And I want you guys to propose that counter for us because I have some opinions on it, and I want to just hash it out a little bit.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So our trade proposal was us to receive Jason Robertson, Mason Marchment. We take on their full caps and everything, right? So Jason Robertson 7.8, Mason Marchment 4.5, and then we would send them Vladimir Tarasenko, 50% retained, so $2.4 million that the Red Wings take back. We're also going to retain all 3 years at 50% of JT Comfort at $2.6 million. We're also going to send them Nate Danielson, Nate Dogg, Jonathan Berggren, Yanni Burgers, the 2026 first round pick, and then the 2028 first round pick. And yours was very similar to that. So I just kind of minorly tweaked it a little bit. I went from the 25 first to the 26 because that is a much deeper draft. And then at that point, you can also put it like with protection onto that, right? So top 15 or top 10, right? If for whatever reason the Red Wings just tanked that season or really bad injuries happened throughout the team, right? And so that's kind of why I did it with the 26 first round pick and then going so far into 28 first round pick. By the time, even if we kept that pick, and God, I hope we're in the playoffs by then and we're making deep runs with someone like Jason Robertson, that pick's going to be anywhere from 25, hopefully to 32 at that point, right? So is that prospect really going to help us? Probably not. I mean, we would probably not see that prospect for another 3 to 5 years from that 2028 pick, right? So that was my reason behind it on that. And I felt like adding those players that we have to retain on, that opens up room for other players like Amadeus Lombardi. We're not sure exactly what he's going to be in the future for the Detroit Red Wings, right? You're moving on from someone like Vladimir Tarasenko that can leave room for someone like Michael Brandzig-Nygaard in the future as well, right? And that helps out the Dallas Stars in a nutshell too, because they need to fill roster spots while shedding cap, and you're giving them and recouping the picks that they lost in the Mikko Rantanen trade. So that was my foresight behind it and my kind of big scheme, trying to become Yzerman with it. And I thought, putting myself in Jim Nill's shoes too, that I felt that was something that both parties would accept and everything. And I'm going to leave that there on a cliffhanger because unfortunately I do got to go.
Yeah, I know you got that hard cut. Thank you for coming, Zach.
No, thanks guys. I really
beef
do
up the context. Zachy, take it easy, buddy.
Yeah. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks, guys.
Sir.
Appreciate it.
See you, man.
So my issue with this deal is why the hell would Dallas want Berggren? Why would Dallas want Comfort?
So
why, like in all honesty, like I could see why they would want Tarasenko because he can be that third line, fourth line guy with some that will bring you some points and give you that depth scoring. Like that's what he is at this point in his career. But my issue with Comfort is if I'm Dallas, why would I not ask for Rasmussen? Why, if I'm asking for Berggren, why would I not ask for Lombardi? Like there's just a better prospect pool that I would be choosing from if I'm Dallas, especially when I'm the one that holds the cards. I'm the one that has the 4 year in a row 80-point scorer. So I personally, I just think this isn't enough that Jim Nill would want to make this deal. I know you said that my deal was too aggressive, and I like that was the goal. The goal was to be aggressive to show, if I was Yzerman, I would want to put this in front of Nill, and I would want him to be able to say, like, to have to like be like, oh, like this is such a good deal, but I think that it's not enough. And I think that your deal is just like it's like our deal's here for aggressive. Your deal's right here for a little passive, and like I think right here is like the meeting point, and that's where like the deal would take place is somewhere in between your deal and our deal.
Yeah, I don't really hate the idea. Like, I don't think Rasmussen's off the table. So to answer your questions, let's back it up. Like, why is Berggren part of the deal? So to be honest with you, Berggren was kind of like, when we were going through this exercise, Berggren was kind of like that. Let's add Berggren in there too. Because he wasn't even in there originally, but we kind of threw him in there to beef it up a little bit. Now, what I want to frame and position is the idea of Dallas receiving Tarasenko and Comfer for the price of what Comfer is worth right now. You're essentially getting Tarasenko for free because we are retaining some money. And I do think we're in a good position to retain some money if we're going to move those guys because their contracts, they're over the hill on their contracts. There's 1 or 2 years left. So we're kind of over that hill. We're absorbing that for only a little bit. But again, that positioning back is Dallas still needs to ice a roster. You know, Tarasenko on the fourth line, maybe. I think even Comfer could be helpful on their fourth line too. I think Comfer's a fourth line center. I mean, even on Detroit, he really is. Danielson, Berggren, and those 2 first-round picks, I think that just kind of becomes the hook. I think that right there is the hook, because you have Bergeron as an RFA. You can work out some sort of deal with him, hopefully. You have Nate Danielson, a prospect. A lot of people think a promising prospect. I'm very much a seeing as a believing type of guy. I need to see a little bit more out of him personally. But I
We're all
think
in that boat.
nonetheless, he's still a promising prospect. Everyone who plays against him says he's one of the hardest players to play against. You got to respect that stuff. But I think the important piece is giving Dallas back what they lost in the Rantanen deal. Do I think this gets it done? Probably not realistically. I think it maybe kicks the conversation. And then you can start kind of plugging, okay, how about we don't give you Marchman? And to your point, maybe we'll throw in Dumba instead. And you start playing around with that game. But I think you nailed it, man. I really do think between being up here and us being a little bit lighter, right in the middle, it could be what gets the deal done. Where does Rasmussen fit in this? I don't know. I think there's a definitely a world where he does fit in it, but what are you thinking off the cuff?
I think that Rasmussen would be very intriguing to Dallas as a fourth liner for them. He's gritty. He uses his body. He's good defensively. I think that's something that a playoff team like Dallas would really value, especially at his price point in comparison
Yeah.
to Tarasenko and Comfort.
Yeah, that's a good point. His price point and the fact that he's he locked in for another 2 years?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that kicks the can down the road for Dallas having to worry about contract negotiations, and it gives them 2 years of a serviceable player. So, yeah, I think that's a good point, man, for sure.
No, and I trust your guys' hockey knowledge, and I am extremely thankful that you came on this show. And the reason why I say that is that I don't think you guys would just propose something like that willy-nilly that you think has a 0% chance of happening, because I'm more in line with Justin. I don't think Dallas would do that, but I'm going from the premise that you guys think it could potentially get it done. If I'm Steve Yzerman and I'm the Red Wings, I am accepting this, and I'm probably treating it as highway robbery. Let's just be honest.
Okay.
Jason Robertson, the Red Wings, they need somebody who would come in and immediately be the best offensive player on their team. And there's only a couple of avenues to get it, and trading for Jason Robertson is one of them. Mason Marchment, I think he would fit in really well on the Red Wings' second line. I think if you do this, you probably don't re-sign Patrick Kane, which I'm okay with that. And also, if you can do that and add someone to the D-core, I think that's a very good offseason. So I would absolutely accept this if I'm Steve Yzerman. If I'm being GM Flannel Yzerman, 100% get it done. I hope you guys are right that something like that would get a deal done for a Jason Robertson, who would obviously be the prize of that trade package.
Yeah, like I said, man, I don't know if it's exactly what gets the deal done, but I think it's what gets the conversation started. You know, the more players, you got to think too, like the more players that we give up, the more players we need to put in the lineup. Like we still need to ice a 23-man roster. And that's what makes these things so hard. When you're making like a monster move and you're giving up some players, it's like you got to fill those spots. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, Danielson's gone. Is MBN ready? Is Ammo ready? And it's like, now are you asking too much of the kids now to come in to fill those voids?
I don't think so. Ammo's ready.
Ammo's a gamer. His defensive play, I think, needs work, and I don't know if that's something you want to develop while you're playing in the NHL, but that's a conversation in and of itself.
Yeah, and the last conversation I just want to hit, and this is kind of out of left field, but like the Mitch Marner stuff is just, it is going so quick, and the rumors are coming out like crazy. Like he's not signing in Canada. He's like already like bringing his teams down so quick, and I can't lie. I think the Red Wings are out on Mitch Marner. I don't think they're even going to go after him. I just, the way that all these contract talks are going, the way that Carolina and Florida and Vegas are going to be willing to throw out the bag for him, the Wings, I don't think the Wings even have a shot at this point. And I know that's just doomsday type of mentality, but when we're talking about, you know, Detroit and where they are versus Marner going in and playing in Carolina or going into Florida or Dallas or Vegas, teams that infrastructures are already set up for him, where he will literally come in and he wouldn't even have to be the guy at any of those spots either. He can come in and be a second option and be one of the best second options in the entire NHL. I think that I think that we're not going to get Marner, and we're not even going to come close.
So the fact that there's zero news about Detroit and the whole Marner sweepstakes tells me no news for me when it comes to Detroit and Steve Yzerman is good news. Do I think he's coming to Detroit? No. Do I think Detroit's out? No, I don't. But my money's on Carolina. My money is absolutely on Carolina and him going there for sure.
You're 100% right, though. No news is good news when it comes to Detroit. I agree with you on that point.
No news is good news, man. Mitch Marner on Carolina.
Mitch Marner on Vegas would be even scarier with Jack Eichel. Oh my!
I think he's going to go to Vegas and they're going to trade Carlson personally.
Man, that would be. I mean, that would be great for Vegas and for Carolina. I mean, and I know this isn't Woodward Hurricanes or anything like that, but I'm thinking about from their perspective is maybe they're at the point where they realize that with the way that they're built, obviously being just a complete team with four lines that with four lines that are all effective, maybe they need a star. Maybe that's what they're missing. And that's
Don't we all need that?
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, the Red Wings. Who are we talking about? The Red Wings absolutely need somebody like Mitch Marner, and rarely do you have somebody who is in his prime, just coming off a 100-point season, a UFA. I obviously would love the Red Wings to get it done. You're giving me a little bit more hope that they're not out on it. But just thinking about Mitch Marner on Carolina, that might be the get them over the top move, and that would be tantalizing for him, but I also think it would do wonders for this Red Wings team and give them just a sick first line of Larkin, Raymond, and Marner. My goodness, just thinking about it, about it gets me pretty bricked up. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, no kidding. I found it interesting though with during the World Championships, Raymond was on the top line playing right wing, and he actually moved over and played left wing. To make room for, ironically, another Toronto Maple Leaf, William Nylander. And he actually performed very well on his off wing, his left wing. So I don't know, take that for what it is, boys. But, listen, I'll if you guys want to wrap it up here, I'll leave you with this. The one thing that we have going for us that not any other team does is the fact that when Steve Yzerman's calling your phone, you're answering the phone. That's why I think Detroit's not out on anybody. If you're a player in the NHL, and you've done the job, you've played the task, you played the power play, you've scored a goal, when Steve Yzerman's calling your phone, you're going to answer the phone. Don't know what it means.
I think you're 100% right, except for Sam Bennett, because Sam Bennett has pretty much already said that he's going to re-sign in Florida. So that
he would still answer the phone to see how Stevie's doing, but I think Sam Bennett's, he's not leaving Florida, and I don't blame him, man. I really don't blame him. And if Florida gets him at 8x8, I love it for both. I love it for both of them.
Yeah. Sam Bennett has the opportunity, and shoot, if they win again this year, which go Oilers, by the way, they're not done yet. But if the Florida Panthers are able to win it this year, especially considering the run that Sam Bennett has been on with all of the goals that he's scored, he has the opportunity to be one of the most legendary role players in NHL history.
100%. He's so every game. I feel like it's every game. I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, that Sam Bennett's at it again. Like every game, it's something seriously unbelievable.
Yeah, he's one of the cogs that make that wheel go. But thank you so much to Carlo and Zach for coming out and doing this episode of Woodward Wings, completely unorthodox style than what we've done. But it was a great time. It was a great show. Lots of knowledge. I love chatting it up with you guys. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this collaboration. And yeah, we appreciate everyone who tapped in this morning to tune in Carlo, do you want to shout your Hockeytown rundown out? Obviously Hockeytown rundown on all socials, but when your podcast isn't on Sundays?
Yeah. So we record, and thanks, Justin, for getting in touch with me, and let's definitely stay in touch for sure. And we appreciate
this
coming
again.
on the
There's
show.
No doubt.
Yeah, man, we love this stuff, man. We love talking shop, and that's the thing. Like, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all just Red Wing fans, and we love talking about the team. But to talk about it with people that share that in-depth passion, I mean, that's what it's all about, and that's what makes it fun. So again, thank you for having us on, man. We greatly appreciate that. For Hockeytown Rundown, we record on Sundays. We drop on Sundays. Sometimes we'll throw in some midweek stuff depending. I mean, it's the off season right now. So, it's nothing too spicy going on. But when the regular season's going on, or free agency, trade deadline, all that stuff, we're usually sometimes we'll drop in like a midweek one. But for right now, you can definitely look forward to catching us on Sundays. And yeah, man, we're all over the place: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all those socials that y'all love and use every day. We're there. Drop a line, man. We love to engage with y'all. So feel free to subscribe, follow, or just come in and drop a line, man. The engagement's huge. We appreciate it, and we love kicking it back with you guys.
Yep, and their link to their YouTube is in the description down below, so make sure you go and check that out. They do some great work. I appreciate Carlo a lot. Me and him have been going for a couple months now trying to figure this out, so there'll be more of this to come. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to Woodward Wings. From me, from Flannel, from Carlo, from Zach. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.